Everybody, Mike White here. How are you? Welcome back. Here we go, session 3. Today, we're going to start working on giving you ideas of where you can go to look for the business. You know, we started out getting an understanding of what you wanted to do in this business and the numbers it was going to take to get there. And today, we're going to go give you a series of thoughts and processes that you can start looking at. This is where we really expand your brain. This is where we really open you up to the possibilities of what you can do, different things that you can see and take away from different encounters. So there's a lot of information that's going to come at you, and the good news is you know, the information is going to be available. You can always go to the website and download the ebooks and the information because it's here for you. So it's going to be a pretty fast-paced call. There's going to be a lot to deal with, but most of which you're never going to have to worry about because you're not going to have to master everything that's involved here. Okay? We're going to talk about opportunities and the fact that opportunities are everywhere. But you're not going to have to master all of them. You just need to be aware, and you're going to have to take a look and see what areas and what fields of business that you would like to try to work on and get some ideas of what you can do with it. So we're going to get started. Just a quick, we're not going to do the survey because there's only a small number on the call today, but I just want you to be thinking about, there were 15 tasks for us to take a look at last week. You guys know whether or not you did complete all of them, but the reality of this is I just want you thinking about that there is the training and then there is the follow-up homework, which is designed to help you think about what it is that we're doing and how to implement it. Okay, so the homework is important, and it is important that you know, make sure that you give it the attempt, because this work helps build your book of business and it helps you come up with the path on how you're going to get to where you're going to go. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about opportunities, and really what I'm going to share with you, and I call it 58 ideas in 60 minutes. The reality of this is this was part of my 2.5-day training that most people wanted. This is really what they were paying for, because they were often looking for, well, where does opportunity come from? How do I generate the leads that I need? How do I know what to do and how to make the connections? And this is really what this covers, is the fact that we're going to go through what I have down is the 58 different ideas, and we're going to go through them, and you'll realize that we have them pretty well targeted into 8 different groups. I'm going to go through them one at a time. You're going to see the connections and the similarities, and then we're going to move on to the next one. This is not all the things that you could possibly do, but it certainly gives you enough of a foundation to understand that opportunity is indeed everywhere. So when we look at the first piece of the puzzle, the number one group that people want to look at are realtors. And so what I do here is say, I combine these items, and I say the single largest controller of purchase lead referrals are still realtors. And we talk about this and say, okay, traditionally we market to realtors, and at the top of this circle is the home buyer. And that's where people seem to think that that's the only piece that the realtor can refer them, those home buyers that come to that realtor can control. But the reality of it is that realtor has other components, such as their listings. And I try to talk to people about this, and we've talked about it a little bit, about that you're actually more likely to get a deal from a realtor's listings than you are their home buyers. So that listings become something that you really want to have a plan for. Again, all the things that we have here will be found on your CDs, golden partnerships, and we discussed them at some great length. But I want you to plug it in, and I want you to think about the things that you can do. Help Us Pick Your New Neighbor is one of the most powerful tools for the listing. Helping that agent and that homeowner get out into the field and let people know that indeed that house is for sale and that you're looking for help trying to find that new neighbor and engaging the community. Realtors used to call it the 10-10-20. Some of them deal with that now by using just listed cards that they send in the mail. Help Us Pick Your New Neighbor. You get out there, you get in front of the people, you knock on doors, you hand them a flyer, you talk to them. For the realtor, it's an opportunity to find a buyer for their listing. It's an opportunity to find new listings. For you, it's an opportunity to find a purchase loan and even a refinance possibility. Engaging in the public and letting them know what's going on is a huge thing that you can be doing, because these are fundamental steps that realtors used to follow and they used to do when they were connected with the community and they were trying to not only sell their own listings but find additional listings from the process. Open houses. Now, whether you work an open house as a realtor thing by supplying home finance guides and helping them market these open houses to the community, you can do a public open house. You can do a brokers-only open house. What I like to do is I like to have my realtor partners and my loan officers go out into the community on a Saturday or a Sunday and knock on the neighbors' doors and invite them to a special neighbors-only open house, preferably on a Wednesday evening between 7 and 7:30. Invite the people out. It's short and it's sweet. Anybody who's interested will come, even those nosy neighbors who want to get an idea of, I've always wanted to see the inside of that house. It also works very well from putting you in a position to getting in front of that homeowner. Again, that homeowner is probably going to sell that house. They're going to buy another one, and odds are they're going to need a mortgage, or they're going to want a mortgage to go make that happen. So why wouldn't you be engaged in that process? If you're going to work a public open house, have a plan. Don't just be window dressing on the open house. Be there on a mission. Make sure that you're doing something tangible that generates you opportunities. Handing out home finance guides are great. Collecting information from people that are there, even more important. You want to be engaged, you want to be helpful, but it all has to lead back to, how does this turn into business for me? Open, house caravans. A lot of real estate companies and a lot of real estate areas do caravans. What's a caravan? Well, everybody gets in their cars. They load up the cars with a bunch of people, the realtors, and they go look at the listings. And so it's a fast way for them to learn the inventory in an area. They caravan from one house to another listing, all providing feedback, all getting themselves familiar with what's available in the marketplace. Well, these open house caravans provide you an opportunity. First of all, you could be engaged with the people putting together that caravan and help put together a guide for them. So you put together a little book, a little booklet. Either you print it up or you do it electronically. Home finance guides for all the houses on the caravans. A little bit of information about each one that the realtor makes up. And you can distribute them in little booklets, or even if you want, on little flash drives that they can throw, or you can email them to everybody so that they can look at them on their iPhone while they're actually touring the properties. Again, you have to be thinking about how do you put yourself in a position to maximize the advantage. House caravans by realtors puts a lot of realtors at your disposal in a very short period of time. The one-day sale. This used to be a much bigger event back in the day when you could close loans on the same day that you wrote them. But it doesn't take away from the fact that we have modified the one-day sale. I tried a modified version of the one-day sale when we did the Black Friday event last year. It basically said we were going to take existing listings and we would have one day where the sellers agreed to reduce their price that they would accept that day only for a particular property. And they would be willing to, it's sort of like the best price at at a car dealership where they put the best price they'd be willing to take, and you buy the car that day. Well, in this case, it's put on that house. Sometimes you do it on a weekend. But imagine if you took 3 or 4 or 5 of your realtors, maybe some of them in a particular office, all of whom who had listings, and they got together with those listings and came to an agreement that this is the price. We'd have a one-day sale, and maybe you offer to do a $500 credit toward closing costs or one of those things to help those people that actually sign up with you that day and close on that particular property. Maybe you offset some of the closing costs. Whatever the case may be, you can get engaged by making a plan and creating something that is unique and different. Renters. I don't know how many of you understand the power of rental properties. Rental properties tend to remain rental properties. Whether they be apartment buildings or whether they be single-family houses, people who own rental properties tend to keep them as rental properties. Working with your realtors to generate lists of those rental properties opens up the door for you to communicating in a meaningful way with people who are currently renting. What's happening with people who rent? Well, some of those people are going to become homeowners. Some of those people are renting while they save money so that they can buy their own home. By offering the ability to show them how owning can be cheaper than renting, showing them how to situate themselves so that they can buy, putting them on that path to buy that next home, keeps you engaged with that person so that when they are ready to go, not only can you do the loan, but you can bring them back to that realtor that you've worked with. So why wouldn't you amass a large number of rental property addresses and communicate with them on an ongoing basis? Renters are a huge opportunity, especially if you're going to work with other professionals as well as your realtors in doing first-time home buyer events or educational events, because people will often come out to those events, especially if they're renters. For sale by owners. Depending on your marketplace, for sale by owner controls a certain percentage of the business. Some markets are much higher levels of for sale by owners than others. People who are out there trying to sell their homes without the benefit of using professional help often make critical mistakes. Most of the time, they don't even succeed in selling their home, and they end up listing their house with a realtor anyway. So here's the point. If you were monitoring the for sale by owners in your marketplace, and there are certain companies that you can generate a report, they will send you the information of every for sale by owner that hits the market. If you got in front of that for sale by owner and told them that you'd be willing to help them in the process, that you understood that they weren't working with a realtor, that before they agreed to enter into a contract to sell their house with somebody, that you would very happily pre-approve that person to make sure that the person that was coming into their house and making that offer was a bona fide buyer. Why would you show your house to somebody that you didn't know could afford it? Why would you ever expose yourself to that? By engaging that for sale by owner and explaining to them, why would you invite somebody to your home, let them see where you live, all the things that you have, without knowing whether they were a bona fide buyer or not? By not telling the person where the house was or not agreeing to show them the house until they've spoke to you, at least you've been through the pre-approval process. You've run their credit. You know where they work. You know how much money they make. People who won't submit to that would lead you to question, why wouldn't they? If they were a bona fide buyer, why wouldn't they go through that process? So you can work with that first-time home buyer. You can build that first-time home buyer, that for sale by owner, and build that relationship. So if people do come in, you can pre-approve them to make sure that their offer is valid. You get to build a relationship with that homeowner. If somebody does agree to buy that house, you can work with them on the loan for their next one. And if they're not successful in marketing their property, you have the opportunity to be able to offer some advice as to whom they should use to list and sell their property, creating a referral for one of your realtor referral partners. first-time home buyers, nothing can be more important than understanding that a huge portion of our market are the first-time home buyers. Those people often require more help. They tend to be younger. Clearly they haven't been through the process before. They don't know what to expect. They got bombarded with a wealth of information. The home buying process is generally going to be searched out online. The first-time home buyer starts searching for information and then bombarded 5 ways from Sunday with all sorts of things, and you and I both know not necessarily 100% of the information is correct or applies. So that first-time home buyer is going to need some help. Well, you can find that first-time home buyer, again, back through your renters. We were talking about renters. Back through other areas. Help Us Pick Your New Neighbor. All these different things can lead you to what's my plan for first-time home buyers. Do I have a springtime event where we do a first-time home buyer seminar where we bring in accountants and financial planners and realtors and appraisers and insurance people that all speak for 5 or 10 minutes, and they help the people understand the 2 or 3 things that they really need to know about the process? Do you do something like that? Would you put something like that together? First-time home buyers, huge, huge marketplace. Trade-up homeowners. Here's the one that often gets missed. The people who would trade up if they only knew. Here's again where you can work with your realtor. You can identify the areas in which those first-time home buyers are buying. In an effort to try to find new listings for that agent so that you can fill the desire of those first-time home buyers, you can work with that agent using something like Help Us Pick Your New Neighbor to canvass the neighborhood and bring up the conversation about how long they've lived in that house. Is the house they're living in their forever home? Have they thought about buying a different home? When you engage in that conversation, a wealth of information can come out on the table for you. Maybe they tell you, yeah, I bought this home X number of years ago. I got a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, and I'm paying 7%. I've never refinanced because I really didn't think it would matter. My monthly payments are this. Well, could you imagine? Now you know that they have an outstanding mortgage balance. It didn't really matter to them to lower their monthly payments. They were comfortable paying what it was that they were paying. They didn't want to go through the hassle of refinancing. What if you could show them another house that they could own for the same monthly payment? You would have to believe that by their house having built up a certain amount of equity, selling that house and buying the new one, they could get a much larger, much nicer, more expensive home for about the same monthly payment. If you don't engage that area, if you don't have those conversations, if you don't know to share these concepts with your realtor and to try them, how do you know if this will or won't work in your marketplace? The reality of this is you need to be aware of it. You need to understand for yourself what are the things you're willing to do. When I sit and I talk to my realtors about doing business with me, do I have a chart or a graph like this that says here are the things that I'm willing to do? Here are the different aspects of your business that we can select. How would you like to work with my plan on any one of these areas? The reality of it is, if you don't have a plan, what makes you think they have a plan? The point that I'm trying to get to is by looking at this and doing the work and building your book of business, you're no longer going in there begging for business. You're going in there to share opportunity, to leverage your relationship into more business for the both of you. Because if you're not bringing value to the table, if you're not bringing opportunity to the table, then why would somebody refer you? When you bring more opportunity and more value to the table than the person that you're courting, you are in control control of that relationship. You're the one that determines whether or not they stay part of this. They are the ones that are in fear of you going and doing this with somebody else and taking your business elsewhere. They wouldn't think of not participating in the things that you want to do in the way that you want to do them, because chances are they don't have a plan, and if they do, it's likely not as well thought out as the one you're bringing to the table. So understand that you need to look at realtors and say, if realtors are going to be a viable part of your business, and they should be, what am I going to do with those realtors that provides value and leads to opportunity? The next phase that we're going to get to are attorneys. Now, a lot of people don't think about attorneys when it comes to the mortgage business, and that would be a huge mistake. What I have told people time and time again, if I had to start my mortgage practice from zero all over again today, the first place I would go would be to the internet, and I would search divorce attorneys in my area. And I would see who they are, and I would see who is marketing, I would see who's doing the business. I would read up on who I could find and the information that I could get about the prominent divorce attorneys in my area, and that would be the first person that I would go to. Why? Well, it's simple math. About 70% of all divorces contain couples that own a property. 70% of divorces contain a property. That property is either going to have to be transferred from one party to the other or outright sold. Depending on your state and depending on your regulations and your rules for how divorces take place, some divorces may require mediation. Some maybe go with arbitration before they go to court. Some states, mediation is a very big deal, and being a part of a mediation panel, you become an expert on that panel, and you get to make the determination of who gets to do what, if this person can or can't buy out the other partner. If they can buy out the other partner, how is the deal structured? It becomes a very important piece of the puzzle, especially with divorce attorneys. And I'll give you one example. We had a situation where one of my loan officers was working with a divorce attorney, and it was really pretty straightforward. The husband and the wife were divorcing. It was fairly amicable. They were going to be selling the marital property off. They were each going to go off and buy their own house. There was a considerable amount of assets that the one spouse was going to receive. And so but she had no other income. She was a stay-at-home mom. The only income that she was going to see was going to be income that she got from her spousal support and the child support. And she was going to take some of the money in the settlement, and she was going to use it as a down payment to buy the house that her and the children were going to live in. Now here's the challenge. One of the children was 16 years old, and the issue with that is they reach the age of majority at 18, and there's no guarantee that that person will go off to college, and hence that child support can't be counted. Well, without that child support being counted, this woman was not going to be able to qualify for the loan. So when my loan officer saw this, she presented a series of options to the group that said, here's what we can do. We can write into the divorce decree that you're going to pay this child support right through the age of 22. We can write into the divorce decree, we can change the way that we're doing this and change the percentage of child support to spousal support. Or we can change the breakdown as to the money. Now, as it turned out, the woman was going to receive $400,000 in cash from all the different areas that they were going to liquidate, the sale of the home and other assets. But by changing the agreement to reflect only $300,000 in cash and $25,000 a year payable once a year over the next 5 years, that $25,000 in income now became usable income for the purposes of qualifying for the mortgage. Because again, the woman didn't need the money, she needed the income. The husband was happy because it allowed him not to have to liquidate some things right at the moment. And even though he was going to be paying more over time, it was less that they had to liquidate up front. It was a win-win for everybody. It saved a lot of aggravation. Those are the types of things that you can bring together with divorce attorneys. There's a lot of other things you can do, but the power of being partnered with a divorce attorney is huge, because in every divorce there's the potential of up to 3 transactions, and you need to be aware of that. Estate planning attorneys, obviously, if you're doing reverse mortgages, this is a huge place to be. But even if you're not doing reverse mortgages, estate planning attorneys often sit there with people who are making calculations about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. Being part of that equation, explaining to people what their options are. If people are going to be in a position for money or to liquidate, wouldn't it be nice to know that before you retired, while you were still having income, if you were going to refinance your house, you would do it then, not after you retired? Wouldn't it make sense to have known that? Obviously, you can look at these things and say, here's what we can do. Maybe selling a house to a relative. Maybe there's a gift of equity. Maybe there's a lot of different things that come into an estate planning situation, especially being the one that they turn to if, unfortunately, the client passes by and now the estate has to deal with liquidating the house and bringing together people to make that happen. You can be a trusted advisor in that position. Bankruptcy attorneys, while they're not as powerful as they used to be because credit is a big deal now, and people, there aren't as many subprime options as there once was, bankruptcy attorneys are also a pretty good source of business simply because those people will be good to buy in a few years. Imagine if you started farming and incubating those people through bankruptcy with a plan, and based on their situation, targeting them as to how they go about being ready to buy a new home when the time frame is proper for them. In other words, depending on whether they owned a home or their situation and where they were, it's easily going to be 2 or 3 years before they're going to be allowed to buy another house and qualify for a mortgage. That sounds like a long time, right up until you think about what happened in the last 2 or 3 years. Something that happened 2 or 3 years ago is not that far away. It seems like recent past as opposed to far down the line. Now, I know sitting in 2013 that 2015 or 16 seems like it's forever. But hey, there's a lot of you that are on this call who couldn't believe it was 2010 already because you remembered the millennium and the big Y2K fiasco that was supposed to take place and didn't. So the thing is, time does pass very quickly. So what if you were working with people to get on the right track? Not only could they become customers, but couldn't they refer friends and family members that were in a position to buy? Criminal attorneys, real estate attorneys, tax attorneys, general practice attorneys, corporate attorneys, all areas of the law that you can look to and say they have a meaningful place. There are things that I can do with these people to be engaged and work with so that it provides value for them and opportunity for me. And clearly you can see the point here. It's not about just knocking on the door and saying, hey, do you have anybody that needs a mortgage? That's not going to work most of the time. Very rarely is that direct approach ever going to succeed. But by knowing how to approach each one of these areas of business, by knowing what it is that you can say and how you can provide value to them, That becomes a critical piece. That becomes something worth knowing. That becomes part of your plan. When we look at the triangle, when we look at where business comes from, when you're trying to find the people that you're going to plug in under the people that you need, the people that you want to start sending you business, well, there needs to be a plan. I want you to see by looking at this material, I want you to know that there are different reasons why you would have value to these particular people. So when you go into something like the attorneys, and that's why there's a whole separate ebook on the attorney advantage, because there's so much information that you can do with all different areas of the law, that it's not just about all the opportunities. It's the opportunities about all the different attorneys. Attorneys just aren't one breed. There are a number of different attorneys put into this system, and that's what I wanted you to see. I don't know if you've seen anything here or even thought about ever working with any or all of these, but I'm sure there's at least one or two that you haven't really thought about up until now. The next group, I call it the civics, the civil service, the nonprofit, the community. Okay, they are all kind of tied together. And I want you to look through some of these, and I want you to get a feel for some of these. And the first one is the one that's painfully obvious, the police department. It's not hard to find a police department. It's not hard to find police officers. Some people are engaged in programs like Home for Heroes and some of the other things that provide real value to those members of our society who are in service. So imagine if you were part of a Homes for Hero program, or even if you were just going to offer a discount. Because this is the police department, because we love our police, we're gonna every one of the loans that we're gonna close, we're gonna give $500 off closing costs, or we're gonna pay $500 worth of fees for you, or whatever the case may be. You can engage in that program. What if you decided that you were going to donate $100 for every loan that you close to the Policemen's Benevolent Association of that area? Would that be meaningful? Could you engage the police department? Would they allow you to do home buying seminars at the precinct? Would they allow you to get in front of their membership? You know, one thing about police and firemen and teachers that I've come to know, if you do a great job for one of them, a lot of people start showing up because they share. So imagine if you had a plan for a police station. You could just, you know, print up a flyer, and if you could just walk in the front door and hand it to the desk sergeant. That's not a great plan, but it's better than nothing. Same pretty much holds true for the fire department and your teachers. You know where the fire department is. You know where they work, whether it be volunteer or professional fire department. You know where they are. They speak to each other all the time. They have common needs. Do a great job for one, you get in front of others. Home buying seminars directed toward firefighters is a great way to get yourself out there and in front of business. Same thing with teachers. You know where the schools are. What if you had, again, whether you're working on a Homes for Heroes project, or even if you have your own in-house discount for teachers? Churches. What about being part of the financial ministry at your own church? You know, churches are communities, and they live on the support of the people who live in the community. They support the community. There's nothing that makes a church prosper more than a large number of their congregation who own the homes in which they live. Why? Because they have roots. There's a sense of permanence there. So getting involved with your church, opening up to being part of the financial ministries, teaming up with an insurance professional and an accountant and maybe a financial planner to be people that provide services for the members of the church who might not be able to afford them or are just looking for guidance on whom to use and what to do. Why wouldn't you be part of that? Chambers of Commerce. Often the biggest waste of time that loan officers see, because they go there, they introduce themselves, they say that they're in the mortgage business, and that's the end of it. Well, if you guys were just making up your list, collecting 9s and 10s, and you were missing 12 product or service providers in the area that were excellent, do you think the Chamber of Commerce might be a place you could find them? Might that be a place where you could find people who are excellent in their area? It could be a start. Approaching a Chamber of Commerce meeting by telling them that you're looking for people to refer your clients to, that's a really good how do you do. Little leagues. Now, I don't care whether it's baseball or soccer or anything else. I use that in the generic form. Be a supporter. Engage. How can you help? Be the one that does something. I used to support a little league in our area. We used to sponsor a team. In fact, I like the little kids because I think that baseball at that level is the most enjoyable thing to see. So I used to sponsor the lowest level of the kids. Because why? Because I enjoyed watching that level of baseball. I love the kids who are learning how to play the game. Sometimes it's funny. They don't take themselves too seriously. Sometimes the parents do, but most of the time it's a fun thing. And most of the time you have a really good turnout of parents that come to the games. Well, I used to sponsor the Little League, and it was an important thing. We'd sponsor the opening day parade, and every year they'd have the parade, and every year I would have a friend of mine and that owned a company that had ice cream trucks, and I'd rent an ice cream truck, and we'd give every kid that walked through the gate 2 tickets. One was for an ice cream, and another was for a free T-shirt. If there's anything that kids like more than getting ice cream, they love T-shirts. They don't care what's written on them. If you write something on a T-shirt, a little kid wants to wear it. So we'd hand out T-shirts to the kids, and we'd hand out free ice cream. And I can't tell you how many loans I used to get because we were doing these things, and these kids would be running around with mine and our realtor partners' T-shirts. And the parents, when the time came to either buy or sell our house, would give us a call. We also were engaged in our team, members of my staff. We would go and watch the games. We would physically go and watch the games. We'd be there. We got to learn who the kids were. We got to cheer for them. We got to know, how they did and what they did. And across from the street from where that field was a strip mall, and there was a pizza place in there. And year in and year out, sometimes you'd get some good teams, but more often you'd get some teams that maybe weren't so good, that they'd go and they'd play, and they knew that they weren't going to win a trophy or they weren't going to win the league, whatever the case may be. But after every game, we'd go across the street, and I'd buy a couple of pizzas and sodas for the kids. Didn't cost a whole heck of a lot of money, but it made those kids feel like $1 million. And we'd get business. Why? Because people are going to buy and sell houses and refinance anyway. And if it doesn't make any bit of difference to them who to use, they're going to use somebody that they like and was nice to their kids. Charities and nonprofits, hospitals, VFW halls and military bases is probably a huge one. A few years ago, the VFW halls in this country were drying up and going away. The veterans of foreign wars were largely dying off. And the veterans that were here, mostly Vietnam-era veterans, were not actively engaged because many never felt like they were welcome back in the community. Well, given the recent events, more and more of those Vietnam veterans are coming out in support of those who have been in Afghanistan and Iraq and other places. VFW halls are seeing a resurgence. Veterans are starting to understand or look for to use their benefits. If you know and do VA loans, why wouldn't you be supportive of the VFW halls and the military bases within your area? It's a no-brainer to be engaged. Clubs and lodges, same as the others. If you don't join just to get in front of people, make sure it's an organization that you would join without looking for business. But if you're going to engage in being in a club or working with a lodge, be a doer. Be one of the people that gets the work done. Go and do the work. Be the one that people turn to for help. And also be the one that they know that you're the person that does mortgages. You're the one that can make where they live cheaper. If they have a question, they need to know something, you're there to help them. Be the doer and be connected. Make sure that they know what you do. Teaching and mentoring. Well, let me tell you, there are a lot of things here that we can talk about, and you probably, this is a mixed bag. Some is going out and teaching, and some of this is going out and sharing. But high schools and colleges, let me tell you something, they have a tremendous need for experts to come and explain to the young people the importance of things like credit, the importance of things on how to manage money, the impacts on how doing something careless and stupid when you're 18 or 19 or 20 financially can haunt you for a good portion of your life. Also, high school and colleges are great places to find cheap or free labor. If you've got a lot of people spread out over a whole bunch of databases and you want to enter it into a new system, who better to go to than a high school kid or a college student who'd like to make, 10 or 15 bucks an hour importing information into your computer for you. A couple hours a week wouldn't cost you a whole heck of a lot of money, and you could get a boatload of work done. I've got one person has a database of an assorted 700 and something names of people that came from all sorts of different databases. And it was all sorts of different formats. And it took about 3 weeks, a couple hours, a few times a week, for a high school student who knew computers to go in there and arrange spreadsheets of all the people. They even were able to locate some phone numbers, some email addresses, some other information that were lacking in the system. Man, that's the type of stuff that a few dollars an hour can really help you with. If you go to a college, same thing. There are people in there that need jobs that 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 hours a week would mean the difference to them about having some work that they could do that would be beneficial to you and could make the difference between them staying in school and not staying in school. When you work with kids in high school and you work with kids in college and you do the right thing for people, and I know I used to do a lot of that, working with high school kids and college kids, that we used to offer scholarships, especially at the high school level. If I had a student that was working with me through high school, depending on how many years they worked with me would depend on how much money I would give in their scholarship. If they worked with me only in their senior year, I'd give them $1,000. If they worked their junior and senior, I'd give them $2,000. If they worked since I'd give them $4,000. Well, every high school that I know of that I've ever seen, they usually have an awards banquet where they give out all the scholarships. Well, how powerful do you think it is when you stand there and hand a scholarship in front of a room full of people to a kid that needs it going off to college? The parents are proud. The kid's proud. Everybody talks about how they got this scholarship. Do you don't think that turns into an opportunity to do a mortgage loan or two? You're out of your mind. Not only is it a great thing to do for the kid who needs the money, not only is it a great feel-good thing to do for yourself, but it's a huge thing to do to get in front of people to see you in a whole new way. Those internships, those scholarships that you can provide for those people are a great source of getting things done and a great way to get in front of more people. Human resources, I can't tell you the number of times that mortgage people live in an area where they have big companies that have human resource people, and they never so much send them a note or a letter or make a phone call, seeing if they would like to engage in a conversation about providing an employee benefit, something that would cost them no money. You imagine going to a human resource person who's trying to keep good people, and you tell them, hey, we've got this plan here. We'll help your people save their money. We'll show them how to save their money. We'll show them how to get ready to buy their home. We'll put them in a process. We'll put them on a clear path to buy. And when the time comes, we'll give them a $500 or $1,000 credit toward their closing costs to help in the process. It doesn't cost the business anything other than to let you to communicate with their employees. It's a huge deal. New agent training for realtors. Every one of you knows that in your marketplace, there are two different things realtors have to do. There are new agents that have to get trained in order for their license to require a certain education, and part of that is mortgage. There's also continuing ed requirements that they have to meet to maintain their license. Is there anything you can, if you like to speak, if you like to teach, if you like to share, why wouldn't you get certified in your marketplace, either by using an existing class or creating your own and getting it approved, and do training for those people? Now granted, most of the new real estate agents, or most of the ones that come for your continuing ed, probably aren't going to give you any business. But some of them will see you as an expert if you deal with that properly, and they'll give you access and opportunities to get in front of some people who just may. I talk about the CMPS certification and continuing education for CPAs and certified financial planners only because I know the program. I've been through the CMPS program. I'm CMPS certified myself. When it first came out, I was suggested to look at it. I went and I looked at it, and I was part of the second graduating class. I think their program is wonderful. It's not for everybody. But the point is if you want to work with financial planners and you want to work with accountants, then this may be something that you need to look into. Why? Because along with your certification of being a certified mortgage planning specialist, you have access to the CMPS trainings. You are instantly able to use their preset, pre-designated training programs that you can offer to CPAs and certified financial planners for their continuing ed requirements. Imagine if you wanted to get into a CPA firm or financial planning firm and they had to have a requirement, and you could go in there and meet their requirement one evening, one afternoon, one morning, conduct a training, explaining what you needed to do, showing them a program. You don't have to invent it, it's already done. Show the PowerPoint, give them the information, have them complete the information, send it into CMPS, they will send their certificates out. That's a way of getting in front of these people. Credit counseling. Well, I'm not saying that you're going to be the hardcore credit counselor that's going to guarantee to improve their scores. But you can put people on the right path. You should know, just by looking at enough credit reports, what's bringing the scores down. You can advise people the things that they can do to help themselves improve their score. You guys know yourself that there are features built upon your own credit report system that can guide people on what they can do to improve their scores. If you're not actively engaged in sharing information with people, okay, I'm not saying you go out and charge for it, and I'm not saying you hold yourself out as a person that's going to repair the credit. What I'm saying is as a mortgage professional, as an expert, you read a lot of credit reports. You know exactly what people are looking for, why scores are higher or lower. And so my point to you is, why wouldn't you give somebody the path I'm not saying do it for them. But when somebody has challenged credit, be nice, be honest, be straightforward, and show them what the path is so that they can go and they can succeed. Consumer direct marketing. Home centers, we've talked a little bit about that one, about standing there with the flyer as people come out and handing them, hey, you are one of 3 people. You own your own home and it's not everything you hoped it would be. You owned your own home and you wish you owned a different one. Or you currently rent and wish you owned your own home. Congratulations, I can help you. You can go to a home center and you'll find people who are homeowners. But it's not limited to that. Laundromats, shopping malls, senior citizen centers, bridal shows, all places where you can make an appearance. Let people know what you do. Well, how is going to a laundromat going to help me do a mortgage loan? Well, it's pretty simple. People in the laundromat will read anything. They get bored. They know all the ingredients in detergent and fabric softener. Imagine if you had a tear sheet in the laundromat that says, want a new washer and dryer? I guarantee the new house you get comes with one. Let me show you how. If you don't think some people will read that and call you off that tear sheet, absolutely can happen. Shopping malls. Walking through the mall with a clipboard with a bunch of $1 bills taped to it, asking people with a sign saying, 10 questions, 1 minute, $1. If you don't think people will answer their name, their address, phone number, email address, whether they own or whether they rent, have they ever considered owning? And if they would consider owning, what price range would they see themselves? You can collect a lot of information. People will give you information absolutely free. Senior centers and senior citizens, again, reverse mortgages, gifts to children, selling a house and downsizing, bridal shows. Hundreds of people go to bridal shows every day. They don't see very many mortgage people. What a colossal waste of opportunity. Don't people who get married buy houses? Why wouldn't you be part of that? Print advertising. I'm not a huge fan of print advertising, but I know people are part of, they buy pages in magazines, etc. If something you have in your market is working for you, then by all means go ahead and do it. Radio. I'm a big fan of radio. But the problem with radio is the commercials have to be clever. They can be a little bit expensive to get set up and put in rotation. And it takes a while before the power of repeated impact starts driving you business. So it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for somebody with a small pocketbook. But it can be very, very profitable. Same thing with cable TV. You'd be surprised in some markets how inexpensive it is to shoot a cable TV commercial. Direct mail. One of my fastest growing favorite things, because we get less and less direct mail. Mail is becoming, physical mail that arrives in our mailbox is becoming more and more important because we're getting less and less of it. When people get a card or a letter or a note, it becomes more important. It's almost always open. So I like direct mail. Working with businesses, we talked about this a little bit last week when we collect our 9s and 10s. Restaurants, tradespeople, contractors, builders, dry cleaners, landscapers, general merchants, don't care. I don't care which one of these or some of these you use. They all live somewhere. They either own or rent where they live. They all come in contact with the public. They all have reasons to come in contact with the public, and they can all offer value to your clients. Lead with overwhelming value first. If you're providing value to your clients, they will provide you loyalty and new opportunity. You share your database and drive traffic to these people, and these people will show loyalty and drive traffic back to you. Again, we can go through each one of these and find a specific reason and a specific way for us to connect. The point is you have to be open to it so that you can come up with a plan. If you don't see the connection, then what you need to do is send me an email and say, I don't know, I think this would be great, but I don't see how to use it. And we'll work on a specific plan. But for those of you who are looking to fill out your referral partner list, who are in need of having more people, these are the ideas, these are the concepts, these are the things that you can be doing. 3 obvious but often forgotten are certified financial planners, accountants, and insurance professionals. These guys all have large databases of people. Large databases of people who already trust their services. Your annual mortgage fitness checkup and identity theft screening is a godsend to these people. Because the certified financial planner doesn't ever look at a client's credit report, doesn't look at their position in their house. By you doing an annual mortgage fitness checkup and identity theft screening for these people, you can unlock more money for the certified financial planner to invest, or you can help lower their monthly payments so that they don't withdraw some of their investments. Accountants do the same thing. Large databases. They're probably already sending out their letters on what the things that people are going to need to get together so they can prepare their tax returns. Imagine if you were doing that annual mortgage fitness checkup and identity theft screening. Those accountants are going to see people coming in with people who have 4 and 5 and 6% interest rate mortgages and not have anybody to send them to and say, hey, that's just nuts. Interest rates are 3. Go refinance your house. Insurance professionals, again, database, renters and homeowners. An insurance professional makes a lot more money off a homeowner's insurance policy than they do a renter's insurance policy. Tools. 5 tools that you guys can use. The Turning Point or some other ongoing client relationship management system, Path to Buy, or any other incubation type product that will take that person who's not ready yet and help create that path. Mortgage finance guides for all your listings. Learn how to do them effectively, how to get them into the hands of people who will see them. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Craigslist. Get your professional pages set up, get them compliant, get on there, and stay connected. If you do nothing more than just post my Thursday blog every week, it'll keep you in front of a number of different people. You can connect to me through Twitter or LinkedIn or I'm not on Craigslist, or Facebook, and you can automatically have access to all the people that I have access to. The number of hits, the number of people, the number of things that you can see. It pre-done material that you can post. You have to have a plan. Send out cards. We were talking about print mail. We were talking about getting links. Every one of you can have a free trial account. If you want to take a look at Send Out Cards and how it works, just go to sendoutcards.com/Michael White and sign up for your free account. It'll let you send 5 cards. The cards will be free. The postage will be paid for. You'll see how easy it is to use. If it's something that you want to do, you go ahead and do it. I will tell you, if you sign up, I will make money off of you being involved. A few cents every time you use it. That's the way it works. I don't do it because I make money doing it. There's just no other way of me recommending it and getting you a free account, so I have to participate at that level. But it's a way to go into a system that you can self-produce materials at a reasonable cost so that you can get it out and get in front of people. Homework. Pick 5 of the topics that you'd like to try. Again, following our format that it has to be based upon realtor, builder, other professional, database, consumer direct marketing. Just pick 5 of the topics you'd like to try. Schedule 1 topic each day of the week. Commit to working it for just 1 hour, just 1 hour. Some topics might work better than the others, but don't give up. We will have conversations if you need help. But understand this, nothing's going to work if you don't establish a plan of action and schedule the time to do it. That's what we're working on here. This is what we're going to carry forward in the weeks to come. We're going to talk about scheduling. We're going to talk about communications. We're going to talk more deeply about realtors. But just pick the topics, go through the opportunity advantage, highlight all the things you'd like to do, and then pick out the first 5 you'd like to try. And once again, if you need help, just ask for it. Email is michael@ImproveMyTomorrowCoaching.com. I thank you for your time. I know this was a lot to digest, but trust me, it'll change the way that you look at your business. Thanks, and have a great week.